Pop, what's going on, man?
Son, how you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Living the dream. Another day talking ball with my pop. How could it be bad? How could you have a bad
Can't
day
be
living like
bad.
this?
Can't be
Can't be
bad.
bad. So, we got today, obviously, you see in the title, you see in the thumbnail, we're talking draft talk. First things first, a little housekeeping. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe for all the best Commanders news, takes, shorts, all the good stuff. Nothing but good stuff coming out of this channel. But we are going to start with our Commanders housekeeping today. And we're going to start with our Commanders housekeeping news today, which biggest news of the week, Tyler
Shocker.
Biadasz getting cut. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I don't think anybody projected that to happen. Give me your take on that, Pop.
I certainly didn't because I called him out as a good signing. One of those good 3-year signings from AP's first year. So yeah, I guess, we're not inside the building. We don't know what they see. All the PFF grades have him in the top 10, top 15 in centers. We looked at him as an anchor, great locker room guy. Like I said, they just must know something that we don't. I know that there was a sense there was a drop off in 2025 in his performance, um, but maybe not so great in the run game, which they want to emphasize more and more now. But did get nicked up. Get varying reports on that from Kime and the other guys covering the team, thinking it's less to do with the injury, more to do with performance. It does free up space. They wanted to hire up, you know, sign Tunsil. Sorry, can't speak tonight. But anyway, it's wild. What do you think? I mean, what do you think the plan is?
Well, I think we're in trouble because we're 2 minutes into the podcast and you're talking about you can't speak. You got 40 minutes of speaking ahead of you, Pop.
I'll be all right. I'll be
Strap
all
in.
right. You
No,
you
I
could fill
think,
in the gaps. I know I can count on you.
oh, there's a guy that can fill in the verbal gap. It's me for sure, without a doubt. Physical gaps, not so much, but verbal, yeah, I can fill those in for sure. I think, yeah, it's a perfect storm with Biadasz, right? I think there's a handful of things. One, it was a surprise when Dallas let him out of the building off of that rookie contract. People didn't think that was going to happen. He was going to be made available. Dallas's offensive line was towards the top of the league at the time. And from what I've seen, from what I've heard, it was because Dallas wanted a different style of center. Biadasz is a little smaller, a little more athletic build. They wanted a mauler, right? He's not that. So now if we're talking about getting under center, moving things in moving the run game in a different direction, more of a power run game as opposed to this gap scheme, pin and pull kind of thing they were running with Cliff, then I think this starts to make a little bit of sense. It starts to make more sense. And when you look at, they also let go of their offensive line coach. So regardless of how we as fans might have felt about how the offensive line performed, and regardless of PFF, who, let's be honest, they're not perfect.
No,
They get a lot of things right, but they don't know what the player assignments are, right? So if there's a situation where a defensive tackle blows up the B gap, and that was Biadasz's assignment, but PFF thinks that's Cosme's assignment, they're going to blame that on Cosme, and they're not going to grade that against Biadasz. So they don't know exactly what's going on. And I think Blau, I feel like this is performance related because you're not going to
it has to
save
be.
money. You're not going to save money against the cap. It's either
Has to be.
performance or injury related or a combination of both. And I think you're not going to save that much money if you go out and get Lindenbaum or if you go out and get another center that's in free agency, a big high price center. You're not going to save a ton of money. Um, if you want to replace him internally, Nick Allegretti's being tossed
It's a
around
good
as a
day for our
name.
paisan Nick Allegretti
Well, it's a
because you would have
bad day
thought he
for
was on
us
the
if
cut
that's the
line.
plan. It's a
Yeah,
bad day for us if that's the plan. I think he's a good depth piece, but it's not.
yeah.
I don't love him as a starting center. Brandon Coleman comes to mind. You wonder if they're finding a home for him there. Um, you
That's what
wonder if
thought
you can
I had.
draft
It's
a
like
guy.
maybe when they look at it and they go, our best five linemen include Coleman, and maybe Biadasz is the odd man out there, and maybe Coleman or Chris Paul. could slide over, play center.
Chris
I
Paul's
don't
got to
know.
want to stay in DC. Chris Paul's an unrestricted free agent. You've
Yep,
got to bring Chris Paul home.
they're gonna have to
Um,
overpay to keep him. Should be
yeah.
interesting.
So I think it's a strange thing, but at the end of the day, look, what I keep coming back to, they were 5-12, and you couldn't keep your quarterback vertical. And there were plenty of plays where there was uh, good protection for Jaden, and he's sitting back there 4 or 5 seconds patting the ball. You're wondering what he's doing. There were also a lot of plays where there's just a free rusher flying in them, and you know whose job it was, at least in Jaden's rookie year, to communicate all that was Biadasz. So maybe there's an issue with that. Maybe there's an issue with the quarterbacking of the offensive line aspect that the center is supposed to do. He's generally the guy in charge of identifying guys and sliding protections and things like that. You see him doing it at the beginning of plays, right? Maybe there's an issue there. But overall, you were 5-12. Nobody should be safe. Nobody.
I think you got a situation where AP and his team are doing a lot more evaluating of the current roster and
Yep.
providing a lot more input in terms of where they want to spend their money. And obviously, like you said, it's not something that it's hard for us to judge offensive line play unless you're breaking down tape, coaches tape. Um, so it's things aren't always what they seem. It's wild. It'll
Yep.
be interesting to see how it plays out. If they feel the answer's in the building, or they need to go sign somebody, it's going to be interesting. I don't think they're going to go out and overpay for a center. Like I know the kid in Baltimore is available, who's going to command a lot of money. And I think the Ravens are going to do everything they can to try to keep him. I don't think they're going to go out and just pay top of the market money for a center. I
You
don't think
never
that's
know.
the
I mean,
yeah.
look, we were saying this time last year, we were saying you had left tackle secured with Brandon Coleman and that he's going to develop and he's going to continue to get better at left tackle. And you just went 12-5 with him at left tackle. How bad could he be? And then they went out and they went blue chip and got Laramie Tunsil. So we're saying almost the same thing about Biadasz and that he's been serviceable. Hasn't quite been top of the line, but has been serviceable. And now what? What's the next step? So who knows? I mean, maybe they do want to go get just a absolute star.
Yeah, well, I mean, it feels on the surface as like you cut a Biadasz and you're hurting the one position group we thought was set, right? And then you got a Deron Payne who's counting 28 million against the cap, and Biadasz is only 8.3, and you're keeping him, right? By all indications. I mean, everything that AP and DQ said in their pressers, Payne is part of the future. So, like on the surface, for the casual fan, which we certainly are not casual fans, but the casual fan, you look at that and go, how does that make sense? And I understand that. But I think, they obviously like one player's potential in the new coordinator's scheme versus the other guy. They just it's obvious that that's the case, right? And this is less to do with I think the proof in them wanting to keep Deron Payne is they're not concerned about cap space. That's not the issue here so much. But they're not going to pay. They're not going to use cap space on somebody they don't think could be a valuable piece in the team, or if they've got an opportunity to go in a different direction.
We'll see. We'll see. It's going to
Yeah,
be interesting. There's a handful of centers available. We'll see who what they do. I think you're gonna have to. They're going to need somebody. So
well, we'll see.
we will find out. So Dan Quinn and Adam Peters did what they did best. They talked for an extended period of time, and they said almost nothing.
Lots of
But
interviews.
there's a
Exactly.
couple uh, a couple quick takeaways from those. It's so funny. It's like when we first started doing this with this group, with Peters and Dan Quinn would sit here and try and break down everything they said. Now it's like they've they've said absolutely nothing for a couple of years
Yeah,
now.
you get
So
little
so
tidbits here and there.
little tidbits. They basically said we're going to get Debo Samuel the day before they got Debo Samuel. But aside from that, not so much. So Dan Quinn's looking for speed and quickness at edge, just like the entire rest of the National Football League. Um, yeah, it's Ben Sinnott got a shout out. Chris Paul got a shout out. Deron Payne got a shout out.
Yeah,
That's all interesting things. I don't think any of them are particularly important things outside of maybe the Ben Sinnott tidbit Is that a
Well,
indicator of where money may or may not be spent in free agency?
well, I was part of AP too. He talked about feeling good about the tight end room. He feels like Bates has another level, Sinnott has another level. He even brought up Lawrence Cager, who I forgot was on the team, as a prospect, and of course Yankov's still there. So, and the real interesting tidbit, to build on DQ's point about Sinnott, he's leaving the door open for Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz rehab tape surfaced this week, and it's a I know you gotta watch. If you're just listening, you're not seeing Dominic's facial expression, which we appreciate if you're just
Whew.
doing the listen thing on YouTube. It is a podcast, but yeah. So I don't know. That's interesting to me. I feel like they need to add to that room. So maybe a little concerning, but they seem higher on the tight end room than we do. I guess you got to pick and choose your spots. I don't love it.
Yeah, yeah, I don't love the Zach Ertz talk. I'm cool with Sinnott. I think there's a lot of untapped potential with Sinnott. I think you got to leave room for Cliff to have screwed a couple things up, and especially when you look at where Cliff ended up, holding Sean McVay's clipboard, that usually means you did a few things
Well,
wrong.
we can have the
So you,
Ertz and Wagner conversation. We got plenty of off season. I don't have a huge problem with either or, but it's got to be in a different role. It's got to be in a diminished
well,
role. It can't be you're on the field for every snap anymore. You're going to have to take a little bit backseat and pride. And, if they could be that veteran presence and fill in gaps where they can. I mean, if Zach Ertz can come back like he's played the last 2 years, it's hard to make an argument against it, but you just never know with that catastrophic knee or injury, right?
well,
So
and I think you're never going to you don't want to close the door to it out of respect to Zach at this moment, too.
yeah, he's got to
Let him
prove
rehab
physically
it.
he can do it.
Yeah, let him have it. Let him see what it looks like. Let him see how training camp looks like. It's not going to be expensive to bring him back coming
No.
off of that injury, right? So if he wants to come back on a vet minimum and see if he can go, and then you feel good enough about Ben Sinnott as a starter, why not? I mean, if he ends up being worthwhile, fine. But end of the day, you spent a high second round pick on Ben Sinnott.
Well, I
So
think that's what it's about. I think they're
yeah.
giving him one more chance. I think that's what the Ben Sinnott thing is about.
Um, moving on real quick. Commanders will play in London next year. Dom and Pop went to London a year early, uh, but
Exactly.
or 2 years early, I guess by then. But it'll be fun. We'll be watching at home. I'm not pro international game, honestly. There's been some talk. I'm hearing people want to see Dom and Pop on the streets of London. So here's my offer: you pay for it.
Hey, we're
If we
we're
can,
ready to be sponsored.
if we can get a
Bob
crowd
Does
funded.
Sports, Portnoy,
Our
anybody
pass our passports are updated.
up to date.
If you can crowdfund it and send us there, we'll go.
We know the lay of the land now.
We like the
We
Blandford
got it
Hotel.
down.
We're simple people. Anyways,
Won't cost
mo-
much.
moving on. Well, won't cost a little. Moving on. Who should the Commanders pick at number 7 in the draft? I got a lot of fun stuff. I've been thinking about this a lot lately.
Can I
Because
make a
of the
quick London comment? Stay
go
away
ahead.
from the gelato. It's
Oh,
not the place for gelato.
never was.
our
London
next
food
stop,
and
our next stop after London was Italy, so we were getting itchy. We
yeah.
decided to try a couple of gelato places. Sorry, London, but it's just not your thing.
Now the food overall in London gets a
Wasn't
bad
bad.
rap. I think it's pretty good. I think London food is much.
Not
You
bad.
can't put it next to Italy or the other places, but much better. But the gelato was atrocious.
Ooh, it was rough.
Terrible,
Maybe we
terrible.
hit the wrong spots, but
We sure did. If those were
they
the
were
right
like
spots,
they were highly rated. Anyway,
I don't
draft
know.
talk. Sorry for the
Moving
diversion.
on. Commanders pick number 7, and this is all of a sudden that win against Philadelphia started to make my skin crawl a little bit at the end of the season because picking at 4, when you look at the guys that would be available at 4 versus the guys available at 7, there is a little bit of a drop, unfortunately.
Can we
So
never
if
be
I
in that position again? It was the worst.
no,
The flashbacks of those last 3 or 4 games where you knew it was better for the team to lose, but there was something still pulling at you, rooting for them. Like, oh my God.
I
It
was
was just
last
awful.
season I have deleted from my brain. I've
Just,
never been hurt by football so bad. Moving
but
on.
we're on to 2026.
The good news is the guys where we want to pick are where the guys in positions that we need them at around where we're picking. I don't think you can miss. There's a lot of good,
Ooh,
really,
yeah.
really good options. A lot of really, really good options. And when we go through them here, I really think any one of these guys that you add to your team makes your team significantly better.
Depends on
Um,
who's there, right? A lot of these guys that we're hoping are going to be there, we don't know if they are. That's it's very. I was going through some of the mock drafts, and we're not going to go through that. We got plenty of time to do that, you know, uh, between now and the draft. But it seems all over the place. Like everyone's
yeah.
got. I've never. It seems super unsettled. We just have to hope if we want a defensive pick, we just got to hope maybe there's a run on a couple of offensive linemen early. That always seems to be the case. But yeah,
Well, it's
it's going to
also
be
hard to know
interesting.
before free agency, right? Does Hendrickson land with one of these teams that is
Yeah,
picking in the
great
top
point.
5 that would take an edge off the board, right? Like, there's a lot of things that are hard to know before the league year opens. That being said, how it breaks down essentially is you have 3 specialists at positions that are generally not drafted in the top 10. Mendoza's going number 1, so let's get that out of the way.
Yeah,
Mendoza's going to Oakland or Vegas. Get that out of the way. Um, then, what makes this really interesting to me, over the next 6 picks, you've got 3 guys who are elite specialists at positions that generally do not go in the top 10. I'm talking about Jeremiah Love, running back, Caleb Downs, safety, Sonny Styles, inside linebacker. All 3 of those guys are generational level talent prospects at their position. These positions often do not get drafted in the top 10, but they are so good. A lot of people are putting them there. A lot of people are interested in how high they'll go. Some of these guys are even making their way into the top 5. Then you have the big 3 in edge rushers with David Bailey, Arvil Reese, Reuben Bain Jr. Those 3 seem to be consensus the tier, right?
yeah,
What is the number one thing that Washington needs? An edge
yeah,
rusher.
yeah.
Beautiful. Guess what?
Sets up good for it.
If we were picking at number 4, where we should be picking, what would we be guaranteed? This is the last time I'm going to talk about it, but this is what creates the issue. What would we be guaranteed if we were picking at number 4 and Mendoza goes number 1? Do the math up.
If we were picking at number 4, we'd be guaranteed an edge rusher.
One of those 3. We'd be
Yeah,
guaranteed Bailey, Reese, or Bain, and you can't. Consensus is you can't go wrong. I have my feelings about that we'll get into in a second here. Um, Now you're left with, if you want an edge rusher at 7, you're hoping one of those 3 guys. Then you start to have Kendrick Falk conversations. But you're hoping
yeah.
that one of those 3 guys is available at 7. That would be the like sprint to the podium pick for an edge rusher. Or do you like a Caleb Downs? Do you like a Jeremiah Love? Do you like a Sonny Styles? I have some takes. I want to get you've got one that you've been fired up to give the people.
I get
What
sized. I get so sized for Jeremiah Love. I just I
I
know
can't get with it, man.
I want to have that conversation. I want to kind of go through, your take and who you want to get. But I just I look at Jeremiah Love and I look at this guy is rated as, once you put Mendoza to the side, maybe the best back in the draft or the best player in the draft. Sorry. And I know there's convention about, um, not drafting running backs that high, but if somebody told you you can drop Saquon Barkley into the backfield, you know, with Jaden Daniels or a Saquon Barkley esque type player, I mean, I don't know how you're not running to the podium wanting to put that person's name in. Now, the counter argument is certainly we did get really good production out of our backs. If you look at the stats and you look at the combo of Bill and Chris Rodriguez, it was pretty darn good. And even Jeremy Nichols, flashed quite a bit. So, that's counter argument. And I get it. And I know the common sense approach is go defense. We'll have to see what happens. But man, Jeremiah Love's just one of those guys that he's either going to go to the Saints at 8 or Kansas City at 9. And I just worry we're going to look back a couple years from now and go, oh my goodness, this is a game. I mean, of all the players on the board, I worry that some of these other guys will be nice additions to your defense, but are they game changers? Are they true game changers? I think they gamble on one of these defensive guys at number 7. And you said it. There's going to be a run of guys that go before us. John Harbaugh at number 5 is going to take one of these defensive players that we want. He loves Sonny Styles. He likes Arvel Reese. He's going to try to set that tone with the Giants there. If we're
Or
reaching at number 7, I'm going to have to take a long, hard look at someone like Jeremiah Love. I really am.
or conversely, do the Giants take Jeremiah Love at number 5?
Well, if they
And
do, then
then
then they've done us a favor. We don't have to think about
yeah,
it.
I think that's unlikely, but I think it's possible. Here's my thing, and let me just give you my very brief Jeremiah Love take. I think he has potential to be an excellent player in the NFL. I'm going to read you some names: Saquon Barkley, Ashton Genty, Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott, Jameer Gibbs. I believe out of those names, I just read you 7 names. I think Gibbs and Elliott and McCaffrey, I think, are the only ones that made the playoffs on the teams they were drafted to. That were
Listen,
drafted. And these are
first
all
off,
guys that were
it's a
drafted
great
inside of the
stat,
top 10.
and I don't want to squash it. This guy, all you can do is you can judge it by what you see on tape and what you see at the combine. He's got superstar potential. Let's not get it twisted.
Right. So let's say he turns into
Superstar
Jameer
potential.
Gibbs. Let's say he turns into Jameer Gibbs. If you put Jameer Gibbs on last year's football team, do we make the playoffs? No.
Last year
Like
was a
that's
last year was a last year was a train wreck, but I think
so
what gives and I'm making a much stronger argument for Jeremiah Love. I'm much more on the fence with this, but it gets me much more excited, I'd say, than some of these other guys, just because what more would you have happen that would give defensive coordinators nightmares than seeing a backfield with Jaden Daniels and Jeremiah Love?
yeah, I mean it is shades of Lamar and Derrick Henry, right? Like that's the idea is that you're pairing a
Saquon and
dynamic.
Philly,
Yeah,
Derrick Henry, you brought up, look at the nightmare we had with Jameer Gibbs in the playoffs. That guy, I don't know, if they keep giving him the ball, they win that game.
sure. However, bottom line is, man, if you perform the way you performed defensively last year, like it's like the Cincinnati Bengals thing, right? It's like you either get somebody to play defense or protect Joe Burrow, or you get Jamar Chase. And they went and got Jamar Chase, and Jamar Chase is a superstar, and Jamar Chase is the best wide receiver in the NFL, one of the best of this generation. And they also are extremely, they cannot get over how bad that defense is. Like that's the issue. I can't I won't be upset if they pick Love if in the scenario where David Bailey, Arvell Reese, Ruben Bain Jr., and Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs are off the board, I'm fine. If that is the draft board, which would be what?
That's not going to
Mendoza,
happen.
Bailey, Reese, Downs, Styles, Bain. So literally, it would have to be all of those guys to get
No,
drafted.
it's not going to
Then
happen.
you could give me Jeremiah Love at 7 in
No, and
that scenario.
I respect your argument, and it's sound. I just think that if we look at this list of players that we've got in front of us, and you've rattled them all off. I think the one guy that I look at and I just shake and have fear that we pass on and we see in highlight reels for years to come after that is Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, but
That's my concern.
this
You
time
know,
last year, Ashton Genty, who went like number 6, was
he's on an awful team
the second coming, and he's on an awful team. But that just goes to
without a
show
quarterback.
he's on an awful team. But it just goes to show that the delta of adding a running back to ceiling is only so high.
Well,
And
but
if
not one of these guys, not one of these guys on this board is going to turn your team around. Not one of them.
I disagree.
Okay,
I
give it
strongly
to me.
disagree.
Give it to me.
I think any one of the three guys between Bailey, Reese, and Bain can completely change your team, especially this team. This team, who you've got the ghost of Casey Toohill playing defensive end for most of last season. Like you need more help and edge, and it's not about like which also we saw in 2020 what a dynamic edge Chase Young picked up this team and went like this and won us our last couple games to get us into the playoffs in 2020. Now that didn't work out with him in the long term. The organization was a disaster, and they failed him as much as he failed us. But it was not a. I
But he
can't.
wasn't. He wasn't. The thing is about a Chase Young, he's turned into be a good player. He's not a game changing player. He's not
Right,
consistent
but
enough and
Bailey,
dynamic enough. And
both
my point is to think that each one of these four edges we've got on this list, if you want to throw, I don't think Sonny Styles is an edge. I think he's a heck of a
no.
linebacker prospect. But yeah, you want to talk about one of these four edges on our list, just to recap, right? David Bailey, Texas Tech; Arvell Reese, Ohio State; Ruben Bain Jr., Miami; Kendrick Falk, Auburn, which probably may be the reach guy on this list. Not every one of these guys is going to hit. And I guess there's no guarantee that Jeremiah Love's going to hit either, right? But man, he seems like the most can't miss at his position, that's on this list to me, and that's why it intrigues me. And I know, again, maybe I'll get killed in the comments. Like, I'd be perfectly fine if they went edge. There's part of me that hopes Jeremiah Love just goes off the board early, um, just so that it's not an issue. And we had no choice in the matter, but I'd have to give it a long and hard thing. I think the other thing is, I will say, there is a legitimate argument that the Bill Chris Rodriguez combo in a better offensive scheme with a healthy Jaden Daniels can be pretty darn effective. They were pretty darn effective last year, but a game changer like Jeremiah Love is just on a different level.
I'm taking Delane, the cornerback at LSU. I'm taking him over Jeremiah Love too.
You love
I
him.
I'm look, Silver Spring, Maryland, 6 foot, 187-pound press man corner to put on the other side of Trey Amos. I would not be mad at that. I would not be mad. Kid's 22 years old. LSU always produces great corners. I would not be mad at that. There's an AFC scout said he'll be a top 10 to 12 cornerback in the NFL in no time. I think he will be. I think he's a very good player. Look at what Witherspoon did for Seattle's defense. They
He's
drafted
not
him
an,
number six
he's
a
not
few years
shown as
ago.
going in the top 10 in a lot of the mocks, but that's just because there's such a big run on edges
He
and
also didn't run at
other
the
positions.
combine.
Yeah.
That's something I wouldn't be mad at all. And I think cornerback
Last time we
bigger
reached to the corner, it didn't work out too good.
bigger position of need for Jeremiah Love. Well, that's a very different conversation.
True.
This is the best corner prospect in the league. Last time we reached on a corner when the best corner prospect who was playing in the Super Bowl and played great in the Super Bowl was on the board, it didn't work out so good. But
Well,
anyway,
that's the other thing is like, is there enough hype around guys like, Sonny Styles before the camp or the combine wasn't
yeah,
wasn't really in the top 10
no, you
of a
knew he'd
lot
be
of
there at
people's
7.
boards. And
Yeah,
then now, he had an historic performance at the NFL scouting combine is the quote that I saw. He did a 43.5-inch vertical jump. He ran an insane, I don't have the number, an insane
he ran
40.
like a 4.5, 4.5
Yeah.
40.
So, and his
Crazy.
size, Fred Smoot brought up a great point about him. He said, B. Mitch was asking, well, do you think he could play edge? If he bulks up a little bit. And Smoot said, no, play him at linebacker. He said, with his size and speed and length, clogging up that middle on pass defense,
Yeah,
it's becoming a trending thing to have linebackers that can cover better, like a Sonny Styles could do. He's a former safety, so he's
yeah.
definitely an intriguing guy there, and he might not be there when we pick at this point because he flashed so much. Maybe Love doesn't there. He's another one that you've heard the Giants lot talked about. I think Giants are going to go defense. We'll see. Maybe
Tennessee
maybe
might be
there's
a
a
threat
trade
for
back
Love.
scenario. Maybe you trade back a couple of spots and your guy, your corner's available, right? Delaney's available, and we can get him plus an extra pick. You'd be pretty happy with that.
Be stoked on that.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about this edge situation, right? I think if the reality of this is, in my opinion, I think if Bailey, Reese, or Bain, any one of those three are available at 7, you gotta you gotta run to the podium and just draft them. Just because of the ceiling of these guys. I think breaking it down, Bailey is your all pass game sack machine. He's just that guy just wakes up in the morning and sacks the quarterback. That's what he does. Um, Ruben Bain, who is my number one of these three, is the Montez Sweat of the group. Ruben Bain is the really, really above average to great run defender and also really good in the pass game. He's your all rounder. And I think we need that more then we need that extra 5% of pass rush upside that you get from a Bailey. I think we need Baines all around just ability as he's more of like a defensive end than an edge, if there's a little nuance between those two. I think I really like him. Who I think is number one for the Commanders, the number one pick, and who I also think is the most likely to be there is Arvell Reese. I think Arvell Reese, if you want to take the glass half empty approach, I think he's the Chase Young of this draft. I think he's an athletic freak that can be. You can look at the guy and go, "We're going to turn him into a superstar," and I think that's possible. I think, but but he can also totally bust. I think he has the highest
And
bust
that's an
potential out of the
example of
three.
if R.L. Reese is there, Jeremiah Love's there, and you go, this guy is showing all the signs of being a superstar and can really add an incredible dynamic weapon to our backfield and our offense. And this guy is got all the intangibles, but we're just not sure, right? We've got to turn that into something great.
Well,
I don't know. To me, the pick is obvious.
you don't pick Reese if that's what you're saying. If you're going, I'm not sure if we can turn him into something great. You pick Reese if you feel the glass half full approach, which is Who turned Micah Parsons into Micah Parsons? He's here in the building, Dan Quinn. Who is known for having these cross dog blitzing linebackers in their defensive scheme, these like human missile type players. That's Brian Flores, who's running his defense. Deontay Jones is in the building as
I
well.
mean, on the positive
Reese
side,
Reese has, I think, the most upside out of these guys. I think if the cop is Parsons, if things work out, and if I had to ask you, Pop, if we're taking this as because you're not picking a guy at number 7 if you don't think he's going to give you that elite
you
ceiling.
gotta
Who
love them.
change
That's just my point.
with
Look. I
this
can't.
roster? Who
I
change?
don't
Let me ask
scout
you this
these
question.
guys, so I don't know.
All right, let me ask you this question: with this roster right now, who changes your team more, Micah Parsons or Jameer Gibbs?
Micah Parsons.
Exactly. So that's why you pick Reese there over Love, in my
Game,
opinion.
set, match, Dominic.
Yeah.
Well,
Um.
I was going to say, like on the positive side, I do agree. We both agreed edge is the number one position of need. Running back didn't make our top three.
No.
And the fact that there are three edge prospects that you can get excited about. And if there's a run of edges, there's still guys like Caleb Downs and
Yeah.
who we didn't even bring up, who we'd all be pretty happy with if he dropped
Star.
in our lap.
Star.
Sonny Styles too. So there's a lot. The fact that you can we've rattled off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 prospects. And even if you don't count Jeremiyah Love, one of those defensive prospects is going to be there at 7, right? Because Mendoza's
Yeah.
going first. So I can do that math. I'm actually pretty good at math.
There you
I'm
go.
kind of the math guy on this pod, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
But
So
anyway, I mean, can't wait. Fresh off the combine, made sense to do a little bit, have a little fun here. We're going to get fireworks real soon on the free agent side of things. So can't wait for that. We'll have real news to talk about as they build out the roster. We'll know a lot more about what this team looks like. 2 weeks from now, I guess. Right
yeah, I
when
mean,
we
if you
buy.
we could go out and get Hendrickson. All of a sudden, we go sign a 3-year deal for Trey
Why not?
Hendrickson, and you're probably
Why
not
not?
getting Arvell Reese at that point, right?
Yeah,
Although I would argue you should do both. But let's wrap this thing up. Without further ado, I've been Dom.
this is Pop.
This was a blast. I will see you all next week. Have a great week. Without further ado, I've already said that. Hail to the Commanders.
Hail to the Commanders.